and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to look at the film adaptation of one of my probably favorite longer Christmas stories, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum. This is the guy who wrote The Wizard of Oz. So take that into account when we're looking at this. I did review the film. That's in the book, which is in a different video. This is the last Rankin and Bass film done in stop motion animation done in Japan. So that's what the Wikipedia page told me. I knew it was one of their last films. If you're not familiar with Rankin and Bass, you're probably familiar with Rankin and Bass. They're the guys who did all the Santa Claus movies with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and one of them was Rudolph's Happy New Year, and the stop motion stuff you see with Frosty the Snowman. They also did The Last Unicorn. That was another Rankin and Bass film. So they were mainly known for their stop motion movies. They also did, I think I remember them doing a bunch of Easter Bunny films, which I'll have to look up. But this is about the life and adventures of Santa Claus. It's an adaptation of the book. Now, I do have a copy of it. It's from, it looks like Rankin and Bass are no longer in existence. So it looks like Warner Brothers has bought them out. So this is the copy that I have. So this is a combined Life and Adventures of Santa Claus is up here, and then it does Nestor, the long-eared Christmas donkey. No, I'm not going to cover that. That's very Bible. That's a Bible story. That's a retelling of Jesus story. Therefore, secular channel, we're not covering that. It's probably cute. In fact, I remember watching it. It is very cute, but again, it's religious, and we are focusing on the life and adventures of Santa Claus, which is not. It's certainly not religious. Now, the basis of this story is it's a retelling of the life of Santa Claus. Santa Claus started out as a baby who was found on the edge of a forest by a fairy-like, godlike creature, immortal, by the name of the Great Ack. And he rescues the baby from being eaten by a lion and orders the lion to take care of the human baby. And when he's telling the queen of this forest of Burzy this, a little wood nymph, I think I called her a fairy in my book review, but she's a wood nymph, hears this story and goes and essentially kidnaps the baby from the mountain lion and wants to raise it. And she gets the permission of the Great Ack to raise this little boy that she calls Claus, which means little one in their language. So she raises him, and the film kind of does its musical stuff because it's Rankin and Bass and everything has to be musical. Raises this little boy from a baby. He slowly gets older and becomes a young man. He learns about the forest and the animals. He eats berries and fruits and things, and he gets, I think in the book he's about 16, so he's a teenager when the Great Ack returns, and then realizes that he's grown up. Because time and fairy and God things, they don't really recognize time all that quickly, because again, they're immortal. It doesn't really matter to them. So he sees the teenage Claus and decides to take him and show him his own people, because he is a mortal human. So he travels throughout the line. It's very time period set in the book and even the film, because it's pretty close to it. Feudal times. So farming people, lords, ladies, and peasants. That's pretty much what you see. And he goes through the different lands, and you see the misery of essentially the poor people, the innocence of the children, you see the difference between the wealthy families and the poor families, and the darkness of the world, essentially. So then he brings Claus back. Claus goes and travels to, I think this makes me a little bit of a change. In the book, it's called the Laughing Valley. I think the film calls it something else, so it's not really showing it up. Yeah, let's see. He takes him, he leaves. So his workshop is in the Laughing Valley of Ho-Ha-Ho. So in the book, it's just the Laughing Valley. So, and eventually he creates the the creatures of Burzy create his home and eventually his workshop. He creates I believe Nassil gives him a little black cat in the film, and he creates a little boy, and this is similar to the film, has wandered off, and he's found collapsed outside Claus's home. Claus brings him in, and he carves out this little wooden cat, and he gives the little boy, that's essentially considered the first toy. And so this kind of leads into him creating toys for the children, and the various children, both in the village nearby and in the lordship as well, because they have children as well, and they come asking for them. So now then they bring in these creatures called the Aguas, and they don't like the fact that Claus is making the children happy. In the books, I believe they convince the children to do bad things. I think they kind of show that in the film just a little bit as well, as much as they can with the stop motion animation. And then essentially the Aguas keep ambushing Santa Claus, and they steal his toys. This kind of happens in the book as well. And then they actually do in fact kidnap Santa Claus, and Santa Claus calls on, just like in the book, he calls on friends of his, basically other creatures similar to ones that he grew up with, to help rescue him. Again, this is directly from the book. And they get him free. But the Aguas, of course, are pissed off. But the Great Ack is also ticked off because they kidnapped his friend, and then they have a whole battle scene, which, yes, is from the book. They have a battle scene between the Aguas and basically the people of Burzy. And they clash. The Aguas obviously die. And that happens in the book as well, because we have Santa Claus. So then, in order to keep away from other demons, and one of the other original thing that was kind of prior to them kidnapping Claus is I believe it's a rook. The head of the rook, Peter Rook or something, I believe is what they call him in the film. He basically loans him reindeer, and they are able to fly, but they can only do it one night a year. So we're starting, and they choose Christmas Eve. I can't remember why in the book they say it's Christmas Eve, but they choose Christmas Eve for Santa Claus to deliver these presents. They go out and they find because they're only given one night a year. They can't make all the toys in this short period of time that they have before this one night. So they go and they find all the toys that were taken by the Aguas, and that first year is he's able to bring all the toys to the children, and then they just go and make more toys, and they travel every year. And that's and then the story goes to the point where it has a framing device which is kind of from the book, though the book is just, this is at the end. The Great Ack has called together all the leaders of the fairy people, and to ask to use this mantle of immortality. There was one created at the beginning of the world, and it has yet to be used. It will grant a mortal immortality. And he tells the story of Claus, who's now being called Santa Claus or Saint Claus, because he's coming on Christmas Eve and he's the patron saint of children. And so the Great Ack is telling the story of him in order to ask these group to grant Claus the mantle of immortality, because he's 60 years old. In the book, essentially the spirit of death is upon him, so he's going to die soon, and they don't want him to. One, this is their friend. Two, he's bringing joy to children. So the Great Ack gives this whole story of how wonderful Claus is, and they grant him the mantle of immortality. And you kind of see this golden blanket-like thing drop over Claus, and he wakes up, because it does kind of show that he's winding down, and that he doesn't know if he's going to live to the next day. And so he wakes up the next day, and he feels like he's 16 again, even though he looks like a little man. And basically he's told, like, you're now immortal. So, and then it kind of shows that's how he becomes and stays Santa Claus because he's now immortal. The book goes on a little bit further and does a few more things about modernization and how the world has changed and how he starts getting into houses without chimneys. But the book kind of ends there. It's a great story. I mean, this is, there shows a little bit. I think this is even, I'll bring it up here. This is kind of, it's not showing up all that well. That's the great act. Kind of shows him with little claws. It's a good story. It's a fun stop motion animation. It came out in 1985. So it's a good secular story. I'll see if I can find some other ones, but I think this is the only one I was able to find. So it comes with this religious story, but again, it's old. So, and the Nestor is not that bad. It's cute, and you don't necessarily have to watch it. It's mythology if you want to go it that way. But and it's about a little long-eared donkey who is the donkey of Mary. But again, back to the life and adventures of Santa Claus. And it's a very secular story. What I find funny is Rankin and Bass is known for a completely different Santa Claus story. This one has nothing to do with it. They can't be connected at all because, again, Santa Claus is given this mantle of immortality, therefore he doesn't have a wife. And in the other Rudolph stories, he has a wife. Not to mention, I believe in this film, in the book, he only has 2 reindeer. In the film, I think there's only 2 as well. There could be 4, but yeah, they don't have the whole 8 reindeer, which makes sense for the story because I do not believe the whole suit of reindeer minus Rudolph didn't get together until you had the poem "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." So, which I think has a better title, but yes, everybody knows that story where it's a cute little elf. That's the image that we have. This, I believe the book predates that. Do a quick double check here, because the film was done in, let's see, the Ella Frank Baum was published in 1902, and was the night before Christmas. There we go. It was the night before Christmas. Let's see see if there's anything. Okay, A Visit from St. Nicholas is the poem, and let's see, when did this come out? Oh no, it had come out by now. It was it came out in 1823. But again, it's possible that it wasn't as popular by 1903, which is when the book came out. But again, and then of course Rudolph. Just for you, if you don't know, the whole Rudolph story I think was created by Macy's. It was either Macy's or Sears Roebuck. It was a play off the Little Ugly Duckling story. It literally was created to sell things. So Rudolph, the entire purpose is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was to sell things. That's why it was created. But there's a whole bunch of other Rankin and Bass stop motion films, which is really what they're known for, having to do with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, does not connect with this story. I do believe this story will periodically, I think there may have been some short stories, I have to look it up, connect to Oz, which would make quite a bit of sense considering The Wizard of Oz was highly popular, same author, and considering this was written around the same time. I think this said 1903. The original Wizard of Oz story was written literally came out in 1900. And yes, I reviewed most of those. That's a different video. You can check that out. But I enjoyed this story. I enjoyed the stop motion animation. Yes, I'm a sucker for the old Rankin and Bass films. I thoroughly admit it. They're classics for a reason. They're fun to watch. They're light Christmas stories. This is not religious. It was one of the other reasons I liked it. It's also very fantasy. So it's a fun film to watch around Christmas time. It's a fun book to watch around Christmas time. So that's it. It's very close to the book. You'll enjoy both. it's kind of a visualization of the book. That again, the book goes a little bit further into the future where they're looking at the industrialization, which kind of makes sense considering the book was written around 1900 and people were slowly getting rid of their chimneys, and he needed to give some sort of explanation for why how Santa Claus is getting into homes, because people are using stoves around this time, so the chimneys are disappearing, and you're getting the wood fire stoves. And he has companions, Fairy, a Ryle, and I think a few others that come along with him, and they can disappear and go into the houses. So that's his explanation. That's how Palm explains how Santa Claus is delivering presents, even though it's the industrial age. But again, that's in the book, not the film. The film kind of really stops with him getting the mantle of immortality, and he feels young again, and he continues to be Santa Claus. So, but I'm a sucker for the old Rankin and Bass stop motion animation. It's fun. I'll most definitely show these to my child, probably when my husband is not home. He doesn't like Christmas. We have Christmas issues in our household. My husband does not like Christmas because he doesn't like he hates Christmas music, and he doesn't like the responsibilities of giving presents. So previous to our marriage, when he was doing a lot of world travel, he arranged to be out of the country in countries that didn't celebrate Christmas a lot of times around the holidays. So he was in Southeast Asia and I think India, a lot of times, or the Middle East when Christmas was around. So that's how he avoided it. But again, I like Christmas. I like the childhood magic of it. Not so much the religious stuff, because we're not religious. And I try not to buy into too much of the commercialism, though I do buy my kids stuff because I like educational stuff and stuffed animals. And that's primarily what she gets, books and stuffed animals and various other things I think I can use in my homeschooling. So, but again, great film, great book. If you like this review, like and subscribe. I do homeschooling stuff. I do a lot of children's book reviews. Do some film reviews as well, particularly for children, and if they're educational. A lot of them are, if they're films based on a book, I do that. I will, right now, I think, for Christmas this season, we have some of my favorites, which is the Grinch Stole Christmas. I have covered the films as well. My favorite Christmas book of all time, which is the Polar Express. This book, the Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, is a book that my mother gave to me many years ago, called The Christmas Reindeer. But those will all be up here around Christmas time, because these are all secular channel, secular homeschooling channel. So again, if you like this review and want to see more of my reviews, or homeschooling family looking for more stuff, like and subscribe. Thank you.